Hello, welcome to the Villages, Florida. My name is David. I'm a realtor with Florida Realty Investments, and every week we take an in depth look at what's happening to the real estate market here. We are located in Central Florida. On this channel, we're focusing on the villages. If you watch this show, not only will you have a good idea as to the different areas of the villages, what's available in the different regions of the villages, what the differences are between them, but you'll also get a good sense of long term trends. You'll get some sense of where the prices are rising or falling here, both recently and over the last 2.5 years. Couple of things to note. All of this information is drawn from the multiple listing service. It does not include any information from the village's own internal VLS system. But if you are a buyer, there are two markets here, the VLS and the MLS. If you don't see properties on both marketplaces, you won't be able to see everything for sale here. Also, if you're a seller, you're going to have to decide which marketplace you want to expose your property on. If you're a buyer here in the villages and you'd like to be comforted by some data that you're getting a good deal, or you're a seller and you're trying to maximize your return and ask the highest reasonable price for your property that you can, please get in touch with me. I'll be happy to use our data to justify the numbers that we come up with. And in either case, I'll be happy to answer any questions about villages or real estate or life in the villages itself. Also, we produce this show every Monday. Make sure you check the date to ensure you're getting the most recent information. And if you want to reach out to me, if you have any questions, please contact me at either davidisinflorida@gmail.com or davidisinflorida.com, our website. We're going to be adding new material this week. Please consider visiting and engaging with us. And if you have any questions about the villages, please connect with us. If you find this information valuable, please consider liking or subscribing to the show. It really helps us with the YouTube algorithm. So, with that out of the way, let's take a look at what's happening in the villages this week. As always, we start by taking a look at interest rates, specifically the yield on the US 10-year Treasury, which this week is right around 4.3%. It's risen from under 0.5% to over 5%, hovering about 3/4 of a percentage point lower than the highest that it reached, which was almost a year ago now. The price of real estate usually correlates to interest rates. Higher interest rates usually mean lower home prices. The Villages seems insulated right now because last week about 70% of sales were for cash. So you may assume that interest rates mean nothing to buyers in the Villages, but in many cases, those cash buyers have to sell their house elsewhere to someone who needs a mortgage. So ultimately, I expect that mortgage rates will play a factor. We'll have to wait and see which direction they're heading in. But for those who expect them to head down, I would caution you that that is far from certain. Let's take a look at the villages itself. I'm going to zoom in on this map for those of you who don't know exactly where the villages is located. It's about an hour north of Orlando in Central Florida. The map that you're looking at is showing you all active listings on the MLS. Every dot represents an active listing. The size of the dot represents the size of the home, and the color of the dot represents its price per square foot. The larger the circle, the larger the home. The darker the circle, the less per square foot. So using a graphic tool like this, it's easy as you zoom in to see as a buyer where properties might be attractively priced. Also, if you're a seller, being able to do a more exact price analysis will help you achieve the maximum return on your home. So the chart that we're looking at, as I said, is showing you the central villages area, size of the circle representing the size of the home, and the color of the circle representing its price per square foot. Compare that to this data, which is the same properties, but this time the size of the circle is the size of the home and the color of the property is its price. Certainly seems to be harder to spot good deals using traditional methods. We can also look at this data, which is homes that went pending over the last 60 days. You can see the size of the home, you can see the price per square foot. Looking at this visually makes the deals much more readily apparent. So now that you've gotten an idea of the villages as a whole, let me explain how I've broken it down into four areas. The first is the area that I'm calling the north. This is everything south of 42 and north of Highway 466. The mid-north is everything south of 466, but also north of 466A. The Mid-South is everything south of 466A and also north of 44. And the South is everything south of 44. So now that you understand how I've differentiated the four areas of the villages, let's take a look at how prices and sizes vary between them. So let's start with a summary of the villages as a whole. 463 total listings this week. The smallest for sale is 768 square feet. The largest is 4,216 square feet. The least expensive home in the villages this week, 145,000. The most expensive, just under 1,950,000. Prices per square foot in the villages range from $123 a square foot to $608 a square foot. Now we'll look at the four different regions as I described them. This is the north, once again, south of 42 and north of 466. The smallest home for sale in this region is 768 square feet, the largest 3,910 square feet. Price per square foot ranges from 123 to 448, and prices in this area range from 145,000 to 1,300,000. At the bottom, you can see how many homes are available at each price on the left and at each size on the right. Now we'll look at the Mid-North, 135 properties currently for sale, ranging in price from 875 square feet to 4,216 square feet. Prices per square foot from 189 to 438, and the prices for the homes range from 255 to 1,350,000. This is the Mid-South, everything north of 44 and south of 466A. Only 45 homes offered for sale this week, ranging in size from 1,156 square feet to 3,875 square feet. Price per foot in the Mid-South ranges from $210 a foot to $543 a foot. And this is the South, 66 homes offered for sale this week, ranging in size from 969 square feet to 2,654 square feet. Price per square foot ranging from 230 to 608. And prices for homes offered in this area range between 240,000 and 1,250,000. This is the last look at the differences between the regions. I've broken the prices down into groups. You can see that by far the most active price segment here in the villages is the $300,000 to $400,000 range. 57 homes offered in the Mid-North, 9 in the Mid-South, 109 in the North, and 26 in the South. So now let's look at some long-term trends, see if we can see where prices are going. The first long-term trend chart is the number of listings, which this week number 469, up from 463 last week, and substantially higher than the 333 listings that were in effect same week a year ago. Prices for homes in the villages range from 169,000 to 1,949,999, neither of which have been reduced. This is a long-term graph showing us the median listing price for all MLS listings. This week, $261.10 a foot, down very slightly from the $261.59 of last week, and also up very slightly from the $259.26 of a year ago. We don't show this chart every week, but I do think it might be giving us early warnings here. This is the median time on the market for all listings, which this week is up to 53 days from 49 days last week and 49 days the same week a year ago. Looking at this graph over the last 2.5 years, it certainly seems that there have not been very many weeks where the median time was higher than 50 days. So let's take a look at what's changed over the last week. We're looking here at the new listings and homes going pending. We think this is a good leading indicator. It shows how many properties are entering and leaving the market every week. Last week, 40 new listings compared to 42 the week before, and compared to only 29 new listings the same week a year ago. 39 homes went pending last week, down from the 43 of the previous week, and down from the 43 that had gone pending the same week a year ago. Because we think this is an important metric, we've started keeping track of the difference between new listings and homes going pending. This week, a -1, meaning that one more home was listed than went pending, compared to the previous week where one more home went pending than had been listed. But a year ago, 14 more homes went pending than were listed. Numbers below the zero line are negative for the market. Numbers above are positive. It may be hard to see much improvement in this graph as we head into the summer doldrums here. Another sign of worry for sellers, this is the price change from the original listing price for the homes that went pending last week. Those homes had a median price reduction of 6.29% compared to the 5.41% reduction for the homes that went pending the week before. And this is even worse than the 6.25% that sellers were offering on homes that went pending a year ago. Keep in mind that on this graph, lower numbers are negative. The lower the number on the graph, the higher the discount. Not much happening on this graph though. This is the median price per square foot for the homes that went pending last week. 250,285 compared to 258,16 of the previous week and compared to 254,39 of a year before. It is interesting to note how few prints there are below 250 a foot, and we are bumping at that lower bound again. So we've looked at listings, we've looked at homes going pending. What about homes that closed last week? They numbered 31 compared to 39 the previous week and slightly higher than the 27 that closed the same week a year ago. Sales last week ranged from 163,000, that was originally 179.9, to a home that closed for 930,000, that was originally 1,025,000. We started adding this calendar year comparison so you can get an idea as to how each year compares to previous years. 2024 is in red, 2023 in green, and 2022 in blue. And you can see that for the same week in 2022, there were 24 homes closing, last year 27, and this year 31. Here's another graph showing a sustained downtrend, although we may be seeing some improvement. This is the price per square foot realized on the homes that closed last week, 254 a foot, down from the 260 a foot of the homes that closed the week before, and identical to the 254 a foot for the homes that closed the same week a year ago. This graph shows a lot of noise, but because we saw such a dramatic increase last week, I thought we'd start keeping track of it again. This is the median time on the market for the homes that closed last week. It was 52 days, which is more than twice as long as the 23 days of the week before, and more than twice as long as the 22 days that was in effect the same week a year ago. Here we go back to all listings, and we're looking at what percentage have reduced their asking price from the original listing price. This week, 54.47% of all listings on the MLS in the villages have reduced their asking price. Not as bad as the 56.8% who had done so the week before, and not as bad as the 56.16% who had done so the year before. And here we look at the median price reduction for all listings shown in the villages on MLS. This week it's a 4.39% reduction, slightly improved from the 4.46% reduction of the previous week, but we are worse than the 4.26% reduction of the same week a year ago. If you're a buyer here in the villages and you'd like to be comforted by some data that you're getting a good deal, or you're a seller and you're trying to maximize your return and ask the highest reasonable price for your property that you can, please get in touch with me. I'll be happy to use our data to justify the numbers that we come up with. And in either case, I'll be happy to answer any questions about villages or real estate or life in the villages itself. So once again, my website is davidisinflorida.com, or you can reach me at davidisinflorida@gmail.com. I'll be happy to hear from you. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. I hope to hear from you. Take care.